You could feel the anger tonight at a Board of Trustees meeting in Thornton Township. The boards and citizens looking for accountability to their finances, while the township supervisor
Henyard making a late appearance at the Dalton Village Board meeting this evening. That meeting was being held at the Park District building since Village Hall cannot legally account.
Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed super mayor of Dalton, Illinois, has officially announced her intention to run for a second term. But this election is anything but ordinary. In fact, it's shaping up to be a high-stakes, dramatic showdown, as the embattled mayor faces a wave of accusations, investigations, and public attacks. Her re-election campaign has quickly transformed from a routine political race into a real-life soap opera. For those in Dalton, politics has always been intense, but the drama surrounding Mayor Henyard has raised the stakes to new heights. From corruption allegations to accusations of mismanagement, Henyard's tenure has been marked by controversy from all sides. Behind the scenes, multiple investigations are underway, with local authorities probing into everything from financial irregularities to potential abuse of power. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Her opponents, both within the town council and from other political factions, are taking full advantage of the situation, using every opportunity to challenge her leadership. The tension has created a charged atmosphere in Dalton, with residents divided over whether she deserves another term or whether it's time for new leadership. But even with all the allegations swirling around her, Henyard has vowed to fight back and retain her position, claiming she's been the victim of political persecution and media sensationalism. Her defiant stance has only added fuel to the fire. Supporters say she's being unfairly attacked by a political establishment determined to take her down, while critics argue that her time in office has been marred by scandal and ineffective governance. As the campaign trail heats up, the people of Dalton can only watch in awe as this political drama unfolds, with no shortage of twists and turns in a race that seems more like a high-stakes soap opera than a typical re-election. Whether Henyard will manage to navigate the storm and secure a second term or be swept away by the fury of her many adversaries remains to be seen. But one thing is for sure, this election is far from ordinary.
Well, new developments in South Suburban Dalton today. First, the state comptroller has suspended some payments to the village because it has failed to follow the law by providing...
As a federal inquiry looms over her, Mayor Tiffany Henyard shows no signs of backing down. In fact, it seems she's only intensifying her efforts. Her trademark defiance was on full display as she delivered a bold, no-holds-barred message on social media, a rallying cry that demanded, quite literally, attention, attention, attention. The move, as expected, sent shockwaves across the town and beyond. It was quintessential Henyard, unapologetically confronting her critics head-on and doubling down on her narrative that they were simply part of a larger, orchestrated campaign against her. Reactions to Henyard's announcement of her re-election bid were swift and polarized. Her critics wasted no time in dismissing her efforts as a desperate attempt to cling to power, accusing her of using the federal investigation as a political shield. They argue that the mayor has not only failed to live up to expectations, but has also fueled a culture of scandal since taking office. However, Henyard's supporters, unwavering and fiercely loyal, believe that she is fighting against a corrupt establishment determined to see her removed at all costs. The intensity of the political divide in Dalton has never been more evident. Despite the chaos, it's clear that Henyard is ready to fight to the bitter end. The stakes for her re-election have never been higher, and she's made it clear she won't go down without a battle. The drama unfolding in Dalton is becoming larger than life, but it's not just local residents who are watching. The eyes of the media and public are increasingly focused on her every move. When the press turned its spotlight on Henyard, she did not shy away. Instead, she took to the corner with a level of aggression that few have ever seen from an incumbent mayor. In fact, the way she handled the situation has caused a massive shakeup in the dynamics of local press coverage, marking a significant moment in the history of how the media interacts with politicians in Dalton. This is not your average re-election race. It's an all-out war for control, with every move, every statement, and every public appearance carrying immense weight. And while the federal investigation continues to loom over her, it's clear that Henyard intends to ride out the storm, putting everything on the line in a bid to retain her seat, no matter the cost. The tension in Dalton is palpable. as the town braces itself for what promises to be an election unlike any other.
Shameful. Y'all are a disgrace.
We're watching a fall of this.
Tiffany Henyard's rise to power in Dalton was nothing short of meteoric. When she was elected mayor in 2021, she secured a landslide victory, capturing more than 80% of the vote. It was a resounding mandate from the people, and she took office with high hopes for reform and progress. However, her time in office has been anything but smooth sailing. From the outset, Henyard's tenure has been clouded by controversy. Locals and political opponents have labeled her a despot, accusing her of ruling Dalton with an iron fist. Her approach to leadership has been anything but conventional, and she has not hesitated to make sweeping changes in the town. Whether it's restructuring local government, pushing through new policies, or taking control of various initiatives, Henyard has certainly made her mark. But it's not just the changes she's proposed that have raised eyebrows. It's the boldness with which she has carried them out. One of the most significant sources of contention has been her decision to dub herself the super mayor. This title, seemingly self-appointed, has become a lightning rod for criticism. While Henyard argues that it reflects her ambitious vision for the town, her critics have been quick to point out the potential hubris in such a self-aggrandizing label. They see it as emblematic of her authoritarian style, where the lines between the mayor's office and personal power seem dangerously blurred. Moreover, Henyard's actions have often appeared to be in line with the title she's given herself. Critics claim that her decision-making has been overly centralized, with little regard for input from the town council or citizens. Her style is often described as top-down, dismissing the need for collaboration or compromise in favor of decisiveness and control. Some see this as a strength, but others view it as an authoritarian streak that has alienated many within the community. In short, while Henyard's tenure has been marked by bold moves and a clear vision for Dalton's future, it has also been riddled with conflicts and accusations of overreach. The town's residents remain divided, with some backing her as a decisive leader who isn't afraid to challenge the status quo, while others fear her growing power and the unchecked authority she appears to wield. As her re-election campaign looms, it remains to be seen whether she can win back the support of those who feel alienated by her controversial leadership style, or if the mounting criticism will finally take its toll.
Appointment. That's what the trustees I talked to are calling this. They say the news took them by surprise, and now they're talking to legal counsel to figure.
Without question, Tiffany Henyard's leadership has stirred significant controversy in Dalton, and the divide between her and both the town's trustees and residents seems to be widening with each passing month. What once appeared to be a strong mandate has increasingly turned into a battleground of ideological and personal conflicts. Despite the growing tensions, Henyard has continued to assert herself as a leader unafraid of making difficult, often unpopular decisions. For some, this is a mark of strength and conviction, but for many others, it's become a symbol of her unchecked ambition and power-hungry antics. A recent board meeting at the Hart District Building, a larger venue chosen to accommodate the growing number of concerned Dalton residents, proved to be a flashpoint. The atmosphere was tense as the room filled with anxious citizens, eager to voice their frustrations and seek answers about the state of their town. But when Henyard arrived an hour late, her presence was not met with applause, but with mockery and jeers from the crowd. The delay only seemed to fuel the animosity between her and the residents, who had already grown frustrated with her leadership. Despite the hostile reception, Henyard wasted no time asserting her authority. She stood at the front of the room and firmly declared, "I am the mayor of the village of Dalton." Her words rang out clearly, but the disdain in the room was palpable. The crowd's discontent only grew as a witness claimed that the sound of derisive shouts and laughter nearly drowned out her declaration. Unfazed, Henyard dug in her heels. According to those in attendance, she refused to let the noise intimidate her. Instead, she clung to the microphone, refusing to back down, and held her ground for a full 5 minutes, determined to maintain her position amid the dissonant noise. Her defiance in the face of such widespread disapproval seemed to embody the very essence of her leadership style. To her supporters, it was a demonstration of her resilience and commitment to her office, unwilling to be silenced by public dissent. To her critics, it was further evidence of her stubbornness and an unrelenting desire to maintain control. regardless of the feelings of the people she was supposed to serve. In that moment, the divide between Henyard and the people of Dalton could not have been clearer. As tensions mount and the challenges surrounding her leadership only seem to multiply, it's evident that Henyard's next move will be crucial. Will she attempt to bridge the growing rift, or will she double down on her approach, digging in her heels even further? The future of Dalton may depend on her ability to navigate the increasingly difficult terrain that lies ahead.
If the freezer money you guys are not paying whatever that vendor is.
What was it for?
It was the shirt.
Tiffany Henyard didn't leave the meeting quietly, despite the chaotic atmosphere and her already tense interactions with the residents. According to insiders, as she prepared to leave the Hart District building, Henyard made one final, sharp attempt to accuse the Board of Trustees of corruption. This accusation was not a new tactic for her, but rather a recurring theme in her increasingly fraught relationship with the board. In fact, this marked the latest in a series of confrontations where Henyard, unable to contain her frustrations, used these meetings to lash out at those she believed were conspiring against her. Her exit from the meeting only added fuel to the fire. It wasn't the first time she had stormed out of a board meeting amid escalating tensions. However, the situation appeared to be getting worse with each passing encounter. Henyard's sense of urgency and combative nature seemed to grow, as if she were preparing for an all-out political battle. Her conduct at these meetings was becoming more erratic, and her attempts to assert her authority only seemed to further alienate her from both the public and her political rivals. The following week, Henyard tried once again to assert control at a different board meeting, this time at Village Hall. But the meeting quickly fell apart when only 2 trustees showed up, and she was forced to cancel it. What had initially seemed like a routine gathering turned into another setback as Henyard claimed her rivals were convening illegally elsewhere. The frustration was palpable, and she couldn't help but feel the weight of the growing divide between her and the rest of the board. Despite these setbacks, Henyard refused to back down. Instead of retreating in the face of adversity, she took a different path, one that led her to the Park District meeting later that same day. Unlike the hostile atmosphere of the board meeting, things at the Park District took an unexpected turn. According to sources, the meeting quickly shifted from contentious to cooperative, and Henyard found herself navigating a more positive and productive environment. This was a rare moment of success for the embattled mayor, and it seemed to offer a brief reprieve from the chaos surrounding her leadership. Still, the stark contrast between the dysfunction at the board meeting and the unexpectedly smooth gathering at the Park District only underscored the ongoing tension in Dalton's political landscape. As Henyard moves forward, she seems to be navigating a complex web of political rivalries and public dissatisfaction, unsure of which way the tide will turn next. Will she continue to clash with the Board of Trustees, or will her more cooperative approach at the Park District be a sign of a new direction? For now, only time will tell how her next move will shape the future of Dalton.
And like Thornton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard wanted the Board of Trustees to approve some events that she wants the township to pay for, but none of the trustees showed up for this special meeting tonight that left the meeting canceled. And Henyard.
Jason House, a prominent member of the Dalton Board of Trustees, has emerged as the leading opponent of Mayor Tiffany Henyard. House, who has served as a trustee for 8 years and has deep roots in the community, heads the powerful Clean House Slate, a coalition dedicated to opposing Henyard's re-election bid. House and his supporters have made it abundantly clear that they intend to unseat the mayor, criticizing her leadership and calling for a return to transparency and integrity in Dalton's governance. House is not the only one challenging Henyard's leadership. Another trustee has publicly stated that the community no longer wants to continue under her administration, emphasizing the need for change. The public response to Henyard's leadership has been similarly vocal, as her re-election campaign faces increasing scrutiny. Allegations against her have become central to the debate. One such accusation is that Henyard misused police resources, diverting officers from their regular duties to provide her with a personal security detail, which reportedly cost the town thousands of dollars. Henyard, however, is adamant in defending her actions. She dismisses the growing backlash as politically motivated, alleging that her critics are simply threatened by her bold stance and leadership. The mayor has framed herself as the victim of a concerted effort by dishonest trustees who are trying to prevent real change in Dalton. She argues that she is the only one capable of restoring order and decency to the town, positioning herself as the sole warrior fighting against a corrupt system. In response, residents of Dalton have taken to social media and public gatherings to express their outrage. Many have voiced frustration, with some even comparing the situation in Dalton to a real-life political drama. One observer likened it to a real-life version of the Parks and Recreation sitcom, a sharp critique of Henyard's increasingly chaotic tenure. Meanwhile, the most recent legal battle Henyard is embroiled in involves a lawsuit she filed against several trustees, the Dalton Park District, and even the village administrator. She claims that they have been holding meetings outside of Village Hall, which she argues undermines her authority and the democratic process. This lawsuit is just one of many moves Henyard has made that reflect her combative leadership style. It's a tried and true tactic for her, painting herself as the lone figure opposing a dishonest system. But as the list of accusations against her continues to grow, the mayor faces mounting pressure. During a recent board meeting, Henyard denied any involvement in handling credit card transactions, despite evidence that some charges, including thousands of dollars spent on personal purchases, were linked to her. Adding to her troubles, the FBI is reportedly investigating aspects of Henyard's administration. Federal agents are said to be questioning witnesses as part of a larger investigation into Dalton's financial activities, further raising the stakes. A recent report from former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot revealed alarming financial discrepancies under Henyard's leadership, noting that Dalton's finances had shifted from a surplus of over $5 million to a deficit of $35 million during her time in office. Allegations have surfaced that Henyard used town funds for personal purchases, including thousands of dollars in charges from Amazon and Target. One particularly troubling incident involved a single purchase on Amazon in January 2023, totaling $33,000, which raised serious concerns given the town's financial struggles. Even more striking is the claim that Henyard hosted an extravagant party at taxpayers' expense, reportedly costing the town nearly $85,000 and featuring well-known artists. This lavish event, coupled with the questionable expenditures, has triggered public outrage, especially in a town already grappling with significant financial difficulties. Many Dalton residents are now questioning whether their taxpayer dollars are being mismanaged to fund Henyard's personal indulgences, leading to a broader sense of mistrust in her leadership. Despite the mounting evidence and public outcry, Henyard insists that the accusations against her are being misinterpreted, framing them as part of a coordinated campaign to undermine her authority. She has continued to downplay the severity of the allegations, claiming that the evidence against her is either false or being distorted by her political enemies. Her re-election campaign, however, appears to be facing an uphill battle. As her critics continue to intensify their efforts to remove her from office, Henyard has framed the situation as a larger conspiracy to thwart the will of the people. According to her lawyer, Boo Ringley, the Board of Trustees is working to subvert democracy and prevent the public from having their say. Dalton finds itself at a crossroads, with officials and residents unsure of what will happen next. Henyard, however, has made it clear that she's not backing down without a fight. She has proclaimed herself a true fighter, committed to standing her ground despite the mounting pressure. Meanwhile, federal investigators have reportedly served subpoenas to both Thornton Township and the village of Dalton, seeking to examine payment and expense records linked to Henyard, and even her personal connections, including her boyfriend. This ongoing investigation only adds to the growing uncertainty surrounding Dalton's future under her leadership.
Investigated Henyard's use of a police security detail, taking officers off the street and costing.
A judge recently issued a ruling barring Mayor Tiffany Henyard from making key appointments without the Board of Trustees' consent, following her attempt to designate new officials, including a police chief and village administrator, without their approval. Despite this court decision, Henyard has shown no signs of backing down, continuing to push the boundaries of her authority. The trustees immediately protested her actions, which were in direct violation of the judge's order. The judge, agreeing with the trustees, issued a temporary restraining order, specifically forbidding Henyard from scheduling those appointments without prior approval. This defiance of the court's ruling has only added fuel to the growing tensions in Dalton. Trustees have expressed their dissatisfaction, particularly when Henyard was seen at Town Hall attempting to choose a new town attorney and police chief. One trustee pointed out that these actions epitomize what has been eroding public trust in her administration. Henyard's persistent disregard for the court's authority has led many to question whether she is willing to risk jail time to maintain her grip on power. Her willingness to defy both legal rulings and public opinion has created an environment of increasing uncertainty. Meanwhile, Henyard's personal life appears to be just as tumultuous as her political career, making it harder to separate the two. Her detractors, led by Jason House, have been vocal about their intent to restore order to the town. House, who has long been a critic of Henyard, has rallied citizens to support his slate of candidates in the upcoming election. He portrays himself as a reformer who is committed to addressing Dalton's financial problems and restoring transparency to local governance. With each new revelation about Henyard's alleged misconduct, his resolve to unseat her only strengthens. Dalton's residents are left wondering how much more scandal the town can endure. The accusations against Henyard have created a political atmosphere marked by deep division. House and his supporters are preparing for what they call a fight for Dalton's future, asserting that the town cannot afford to let Henyard remain in power for another 4 years. Despite the mounting pressure, Henyard remains resolute. In a statement released by her lawyer, she reiterated her claim that the backlash against her is part of a politically motivated smear campaign orchestrated by her rivals. She insists that she is the only one fighting for the people of Dalton, while the Board of Trustees is simply trying to undermine her authority. However, the growing evidence of poor financial management, compounded by the ongoing federal investigation and the court's restrictions on her authority, makes it increasingly difficult for Henyard to maintain her position. As the investigation into her administration continues, Dalton finds itself in a state of political disarray. Henyard's campaign for re-election has only intensified the scrutiny on her leadership, leaving residents anxious about the town's future. The outcome of this election will undoubtedly have long-term implications, and the people of Dalton are closely watching how the situation unfolds. One of the key challenges Henyard faces is the ongoing federal investigation into her actions. Allegations of financial mismanagement and corruption have been circulating for months, with rumors of funds meant for public services being diverted for personal use. While Henyard's public relations firm has denied any involvement with federal authorities, insiders suggest that things may not be as clear-cut as they appear. The FBI has stated that it does not comment on the nature of investigations, but the mere involvement of federal agents has raised serious concerns. If the allegations are true, they paint a troubling picture of financial misconduct under Henyard's watch. Reports suggest that substantial sums of taxpayer money may have been misappropriated, with some claims pointing to extravagant expenditures for personal gain. The mounting evidence of financial mismanagement is only intensifying public outrage, especially in a town already struggling with financial difficulties. As the investigation continues, the question for Henyard becomes increasingly clear. How long can she maintain her grip on power? And if she does manage to secure a second term, what kind of leadership can Dalton expect from someone under such intense scrutiny? The town's residents are anxiously awaiting answers, and the outcome of this battle will likely shape Dalton's political landscape for years to come.
Has obtained or reviewed subpoenas the FBI served at Thornton Township and Dalton. They serve as a roadmap to the ongoing federal investigation. They seek payment and expense records for Tiffany Henyard, as well as her boyfriend, who runs a violence prevention program for the township. Also named Henyard's top aide, Dalton's acting police chief, along with 4 village and township trustees and 2 of Henyard's relatives who are on the government payroll.
They'll turn up more and more information. They'll turn up more leads. They may turn up more witnesses. They may find a cooperator. They may find an informant, all which will benefit the investigation tremendously.
But based on what we know now, if you're Tiffany Henyard, how are you feeling?
I would be.
The financial troubles surrounding Mayor Tiffany Henyard's administration have taken a dramatic turn, with allegations of extravagant spending and potential corruption continuing to grow. Small expenses are one thing, but the accusations now also involve high-end shopping sprees and lavish parties featuring well-known performers all allegedly funded by public money. Henyard's team has defended her actions, pointing to the fact that when she took office, the township had a deficit of over $2 million. Under her leadership, they claim the township now has a surplus of more than $6 million. However, the claims of extravagant parties are not just hearsay. Documentation has surfaced to support them. A report by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who was hired to conduct a financial review of Dalton, reveals troubling details. Under Henyard's leadership, Dalton's general fund, which once had a surplus of over $5 million, plummeted to a deficit of nearly $4 million. The report further suggests that Henyard may have misused public funds, including spending on office supplies and purchases from sites like Amazon and Target. But the most alarming revelation was a massive $333,000 shopping spree, which has raised serious questions about how taxpayer dollars were being spent. Despite these growing concerns, Henyard has remained steadfast, publicly declaring on her social media that she is running for re-election. However, her financial management of the village has become the subject of intense scrutiny, with even her most loyal allies acknowledging that the mounting evidence is hard to ignore. Henyard's team insists that everything is above board, framing the criticism as politically motivated attacks. Yet the ongoing investigation by former Mayor Lightfoot into the village's finances, particularly regarding Henyard's management, suggests otherwise. Reports have surfaced indicating that Henyard has been handing out contracts to friends and family without following the usual procurement procedures. According to court documents, some of her closest associates have received lucrative contracts from the village, bypassing the standard checks and balances. The most startling revelation, however, came when it was reported that Henyard's lover had somehow become involved in the investigation and, in a shocking turn of events, testified against her in court. Insiders claim that his testimony revealed deeply troubling information, including details of questionable financial dealings and potential bribes with local contractors. The betrayal stunned Dalton's residents, who never expected someone so close to the mayor to turn on her. The courtroom scene was described as chaotic, with Henyard reportedly furious over the testimony. Witnesses say she attempted to interrupt her lover's testimony, but the damage had already been done. The public disclosure of these private conversations has created even more legal and political turmoil for Henyard, with the potential to severely damage her career. To make matters worse, rumors are swirling that Henyard may have accepted bribes from nearby developers in exchange for contracts and permits, though specifics are still unclear. Insiders suggest that these conversations occurred multiple times during her tenure as mayor, and that even her closest friends and family members advised her to exercise caution. Despite these warnings, Henyard dismissed their concerns. A recent court ruling further complicates her position. A judge issued an order prohibiting her from making appointments, including those for key positions like the village attorney and police chief, without the board's approval. The ruling effectively undermined her authority. However, Henyard showed no signs of conceding. She proceeded to appoint her own choices for the village attorney and police chief, defying the court's order and sparking further tension with the board. Despite the court's decision and the board's objection, Henyard continued to make decisions on personnel matters. Witnesses reported that, even after it became clear that the court had ruled against her, her appointees, including a village administrator, were still seen attending village meetings, further raising questions about her defiance of the judicial process. In the face of these accusations, Henyard remains unyielding, but the pressure on her administration continues to mount. The accusations of corruption, coupled with ongoing legal battles and a federal investigation into her financial management, have left Dalton's political landscape in turmoil. As the investigation continues, the future of Dalton's leadership hangs in the balance, and residents are left wondering how much more scandal the town can endure.
We made sure they did one, and we also told our board to come upstairs due to the fact that he had several ways.
Despite lacking the legal authority to do so, Mayor Tiffany Henyard has continued to act in an official capacity, flouting the court's ruling and further igniting tensions within Dalton. Some speculate that the court may take steps to hold her in contempt, potentially leading to consequences that could further damage her position. Another troubling issue involves William Moore, a former employee who, despite being laid off, continues to appear at Village Hall. Trustees have raised concerns about Moore's ongoing presence, with some speculating that he may still have access to confidential information, including lobbying credentials. If true, this could indicate a serious breach of Dalton's internal security, suggesting that unauthorized individuals may have access to sensitive data. The rumors surrounding Henyard's inner circle have only added to the mystery. Allegations have emerged that Henyard may have provided Moore, along with others, access codes that they shouldn't have had, further deepening concerns about security. Though no formal charges have been filed, whispers about Henyard's closest allies being complicit in these questionable activities have begun to circulate. One such ally is Michael Dotz, whose involvement in Henyard's administration is under scrutiny. Insiders speculate that Dotz may be connected to some of the more dubious actions of Henyard's tenure, especially after the board rejected the nomination of Angela Lockett for a key position. Lockett has been adamant about her placement, and some wonder whether her insistence points to deeper, undisclosed motivations behind the scenes. Lockett is believed to have played a significant role in some of Henyard's more controversial decisions. Despite vocal disapproval from the Board of Trustees, Henyard has remained steadfast in supporting Lockett, leading some to question whether her commitment goes beyond mere loyalty. Is it stubbornness, or is there something more at stake that Henyard is trying to keep under wraps? As chaos swirls around her, Henyard continues to present herself as a victim of political oppression. She has taken to social media to rally her supporters, posting cryptic messages like, "I need all my black sheep to stand with me," urging them to attend meetings and stand by her, in what she frames as her battle against corruption. Ironically, her opponents view her as the embodiment of everything wrong with Dalton's political system, and despite all her efforts to position herself as the victim, she is facing increasing legal scrutiny. Federal authorities are reportedly deepening their investigation into Henyard's financial practices. Investigators have been spotted at Village Hall, examining financial records and speaking with staff. Insiders claim subpoenas have been issued to several individuals within her administration, including family members. The situation has escalated into a full-scale investigation, with staff members from the finance department and former employees potentially facing questioning. The mounting legal pressure is undoubtedly creating a tense atmosphere, as Henyard's every move is now under the microscope. Despite this, Henyard shows no signs of backing down. Her determination to hold on to power is clear, and she recently announced her re-election bid in a defiant Facebook post, signaling that she may be under siege, but she's far from giving up. Some view this as a display of resilience, while others see it as a stubborn refusal to acknowledge reality. Her declaration has set the stage for what promises to be one of Dalton's most controversial elections to date. On the opposing side, Jason House and his Clean House campaign are gaining traction, with a focus on restoring transparency and accountability to the village government. While it remains unclear whether House can successfully unseat Henyard, he remains confident that the residents of Dalton are ready for a change. House has enlisted former officials and community leaders who share his frustration with Henyard's administration, positioning himself as the reformer Dalton needs. As the election approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher. Henyard must contend not only with the wrath of the Board of Trustees, but also with a growing public outcry and increasing scrutiny from federal authorities. The FBI is reportedly using electronic surveillance to investigate Henyard's use of taxpayer dollars, including spending on out-of-town travel. Given the ongoing federal investigation and mounting legal challenges, it remains to be seen whether Henyard can maintain her hold on power. Can she successfully navigate the storm of controversy surrounding her? Or will her reign come to an end in the face of mounting opposition? The upcoming election will be a defining moment for Dalton, and the town's residents are watching closely to see if Henyard can weather the storm and secure a second term, or if change is finally on the horizon.